The central theme of the issues we address takes a point of view through the lens of human dignity with the community of Woodlane Village. This is the Dignity Report.
Step 5 of the Ukadoba method is data analysis. We will now explain how our group analyzed data, starting with defining dignity.
Ancient Roman context, dignitas refers to the hierarchical conception of a person's status in society. However, the term dignity has evolved over the years. Dignity is a mother right. The International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, adopted in 1966, reads that rights derive from the inherent dignity of a human person. Human rights can be understood as basic standards which are necessary for life of dignity. We researched national and international rights. We referred to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and connected them with South African human rights in order to establish a baseline for dignity. The South African Human Rights Commission states that human rights are applicable to everyone in the country, including non-nationals, by virtue of being human.
We then referred to fundamental human needs and connected them to human rights. Quality of life depends on possibilities people have to adequately satisfy their fundamental needs. Chilean economist Max Neef defines in his 1989 article, Human Scale Development, a matrix of fundamental human needs. He identifies the needs of subsistence, protection, affection, understanding, participation, leisure, creation, identity, and freedom. This table indicates how needs can be satisfied through different stages of being, having, doing, and interacting. This theoretical framework will form the basis of our analysis. Max Neef argued that it is important to understand that human needs are interrelated and influence each other. For example, food is a satisfier for the need of protection in much the same way that a family structure might be. The same satisfier can actualize different needs in different cultures and different time periods. We assess to what extent the environment represses, tolerates, or stimulates opportunities via a problem tree. We aim to identify root causes and symptomatic problems related to each need.
The Swedish students from our group met up with a woman living and working in Woodlane Village. She provides for her household by selling vet cook and buns in the area close to her home. They thought they were going to meet a woman empowered by her own business and were interested in knowing the struggles when running a business in this environment. They met an amazing, smart and caring woman and her child. She was running and scaling up a business, but the earnings were not hers to keep. She was not growing a business, she was surviving. Running from home as a teenager, moving away from home, meeting a man and becoming a mother, being left behind by her husband, losing her first baby to an unknown disease, entering prostitution with all the horrors that could entail. Then she met her new husband, who originally was a customer of hers. They now have a child, running a business in Woodlane Village where all the money goes to her husband, who keeps them from her, preventing her from leaving him, and he's abusive.
We will now look at the need of subsistence in terms of having food and work. The right to food and work is a human right recognized under national and international law. Participants were asked how they would compare their average income to the rest of the community, ranging from extremely poor to nothing to worry about. This map indicates where people identified themselves at the lower end of the spectrum. We found that the income level placements were very random, thus showing that there is no placement trends according to the income levels of the individuals. The questionnaire asked on a scale of how worried people are about having a job. Majority of the participants said that they were extremely worried about having a job. We then compare the income level with high crime areas in Woodlane Village. We found that crime was more prevalent in low income areas. We assumed that people become so impoverished that they turn to theft for basic expenses. We heard a story that a community member used to have a catering business, but all his equipment got stolen and now he has nothing. Max Neef explains that extended unemployment will totally upset a person's fundamental need system. Due to the subsistence problems, the people will feel increasingly unprotected, crisis in the family and guilt feelings may destroy affections, lack of participation will give way to feelings of isolation and marginalization, and declining self-esteem may very well generate an identity crisis.
We will now examine the need for subsistence in terms of living environment. Internationally, every person has the right to adequate living conditions. We observed the distribution of waste in the settlement. Only 2 municipal skippies were provided for the settlement. There were 2 main dumping areas on the peripheries, but waste was also seen inside the settlement. It was concentrated in the main streets and alongside the northern boundary. Community leaders said that people from the surrounding areas dumped their rubbish in the veld near Woodlane Village. instead of at the municipal dump sites. The survey revealed that most people dispose of the waste at the dump sites. The unreliability of municipal disposal could explain the disuse of the skippies, as the municipality only collects waste every 2 to 3 months. It was established through the survey that majority of people discard their wastewater onto the road. This could be due to a lack of infrastructure. Survey answers were geolocated and mapped to give an indication of the wastewater disposal pattern. Observations of water trenches and stagnant water were also geolocated and mapped. The largest concentration seems to be in the main streets and towards the lower lying northern edge of the settlement, which is in close proximity to the clinic. Worryingly, there is also a wastewater trench running alongside the SA Cares creche. Inadequate waste infrastructure contributes to unhealthy living conditions, possibly negatively impacting a person's well-being and ability to attend school or work.
We will now address the need of subsistence, looking at access to water. As per international law, humans have the right to safe drinking water. We identified 10 water tanks that were filled up every day. As we conducted the questionnaire, we were told that the trucks only come 3 times a week and not all the tanks are being filled. Majority of the respondents only have access to water a few times a week. We were also told that due to the lack of water, the violence and hostility heightens. There is evidently an inadequate supply of water. We were told that individuals risk losing their job because they need to stay home to fetch water for their households. By looking at the problem tree, the lack of water is connected to the lack of infrastructure. This may lead to violence, health concern, a lack of trust, irritation, and division in the community. The need for subsistence could be satisfied in terms of having access to sanitation. Access to water and sanitation is an international human right. The map indicates sanitation points where we observed. There is an imbalance between the number of dwellings and available sanitation points. Some of these sanitation points are even locked. We can relate this topic back to the rights of water and sanitation. 39% of the survey participants use the open felt to relieve themselves, clearly illustrating that Woodlane Village lacks access to sanitation. We heard that the open felt is a very unsafe place for women and children. They tend to go in groups, otherwise it's highly likely for women to get attacked. We can see here the lack of sanitation is connected to the lack of infrastructure. This may lead to health concerns, possible exposure to abuse, lack of trust, and lowered self-esteem in the community.
We overlaid the geolocated sanitation points, waste, and wastewater disposal patterns. It can be seen that the general waste and sanitation points overlap where wastewater is disposed of and where wastewater trenches are. The wastewater becomes polluted with trash and fecal matter. These are poor living conditions and is also alarmingly close to the clinic and creche. We overlaid the geolocated water tanks onto the waste map. It is concerning to see that people's source of potable water is in close proximity to wastewater. There is possibly a risk for cross-contamination. We observed that children play in the streets next to the polluted water trenches. It is a health and safety concern. The inadequate waste, water, and sanitation infrastructure has many ramifications and could impact hygiene, health, safety, and community solidarity.
Next, we look at the need of understanding in terms of having access to education. As per the United Nations International Bill of Human Rights, every child has the right to education. Places of education and learning in the settlements are the Moraleta Davies run by the church and the SA Cares funded creche run by the people of Woodlane Village. 6 of the survey participants indicated that children do not have access to education, and another 6 indicated that there are safety, time, and transport inhibitors when it comes to education. We heard the creche and Moraleta Davies cannot always accommodate all of the children. The children must attend schools elsewhere. We heard of a school attended near Donkerhoek, which is a 45-minute drive for the community. Situations where education is too much of an inconvenience or difficult to keep up with, children tend to drop out of school. This leads to greater issues such as illiteracy, unemployment, and a downfall of a generation.
We will now address the need of creation through looking at developing skills. As per international law, humans have a right to work, including technical and vocational training, equal rights of women in relation to employment, and equal rights of migrant workers. The map shows the locations of the economic enterprises we observed inside Woodlane Village. The questionnaire revealed that there are many community members who would like to start their own business or who even has their own businesses but unfortunately there is little support and resources. The ambition is there, but not the support. Some people would like to grow their own vegetable garden, but they don't have enough space to produce enough since they are not allowed to go over the demarcated plot. Alex the welder says that he does not have work because of the lack of opportunity. It is possible that a lack of adequate support has prevented people from utilizing their skills and finding job opportunities, which may contribute to poverty and a low self-esteem. We analyze the influence of the needs for leisure and affection on each other. We observe that these two needs go hand in hand in Woodlane Village. As per international law, people have the right to take part in cultural life. Shebeens are places for leisure in Woodlane Village. The map shows the locations of the shebeens we identified in the settlement. We heard testimonies that the number of people in shebeens increase over weekends. With that, the consumption of drugs and alcohol also increase. There is violence, and sometimes men fight over the prostitutes, who charge a mere 20 rand. In the attempt to find relief from their living conditions, people turn to what Max Neef termed pseudo-satisfier, which stimulates a false sensation of satisfying a given need. Prostitution is a pseudo-satisfier for affection, and the abuse of substances is a pseudo-satisfier for leisure.
The need for participation can be actualized through community associations. Humans have a right to participate in public affairs. A voluntary leadership system has been established, and they meet in a small community office. Regarding public gatherings, the survey revealed that people mainly meet at the sports field. This could possibly be due to the size limitations at the community office. Could the absence of a formal gathering space prohibit people from resolving conflict and building community? The different nationalities in Woodlane Village all have their own social-cultural norms, which could be a melting pot for tension. There is a fear of the other, a fear of difference, possibly causing segregation and withdrawal. There would be a need for consensus and mutual respect. We analyze the influence of the needs for identity and freedom together in terms of autonomy. Humans internationally have the right to equality and non-discrimination and the freedom of non-citizens from arbitrary expulsion. We heard many people are afraid to obtain citizenship or even a working permit in fear of being deported. Many challenges are encountered when trying to obtain citizenship. It is largely due to a lack of resources, whether that be financial or social. The South African Human Rights Commission states that a lack of citizenship limits the right to enter, remain in, and reside in South Africa, the right to profession, occupation, or trade, and the right to gain access to land on an equal basis as citizens. Woodlane Village has many migrants, but it has existed for more than a decade. There is as of yet no tenure or sense of security. Do people not deserve a fair chance to be considered for ownership? The lack of support in transformation from a transient to a permanent community has left residents feeling marginalized and unsafe. The fear process of obtaining a working permit or citizenship have left many without opportunities or a reliable income.
The need for protection is evaluated through the lens of a safe environment. Every individual has the right to liberty and security of a person, and this entails to be free from all forms of violence from either the public or private sources. The map indicates individuals who had concerns about being alone. The survey showed more than half of the respondents indicated that they feel extremely worried about being alone in their own community. This map indicates individuals feeling unsafe. Statistics reveal 42% of the community feel unsafe on a daily basis. Here, we combine the concerns about being alone or feeling unsafe from our sample to generate areas where the need for protection is unsatisfied. The Swedish students created an additional safety survey in order for us to get a deeper understanding about the struggles and fears experienced and established which areas felt more unsafe. We also compared the differences between women and men in this aspect. Men indicated they feel unsafe when leaving the settlement, specifying the east side corner and the road to the settlement as being more threatening, compared to the women who felt unsafe all the time. When asked to specify particular areas on the map, they pointed to the surrounding areas of the settlement, the adjoining boundaries, bordering field and roads. Both men and women fear the east side corner of the settlement. We heard during the interviews that the corner is a breeding ground for drugs. The statistics revealed half of the men felt completely safe in the settlement. Once again, comparing this to the women, only 70% never felt safe in the settlement. This is an alarming statistic concerning the women of the community, and this indicates a clear imbalance in perceived safety concerns. The map shows participants who felt victim to crime. Comparing the areas where people felt unsafe and to the areas people fell victim to crime, in majority we see the locations overlapping. This chart indicates the type of crime in the community, with domestic abuse making up 22% of crime. There is a safe house in the settlement, which is a sanctuary for women and children victim to violence, but not everyone makes use of it. We've come to realize that the most significant findings were mainly the alarming water conditions and the safety. The most vulnerable groups, in our opinion, are the women and the children.
We will now discuss possible interventions we consider to actualize human needs in this context. We propose a self-reliant development strategy, meaning the development could emerge from the community's own efforts, capabilities, and resources. We attempted to understand the opportunities that exist to actualize needs. We assessed how accessible, creative, or flexible the environment is, and questioned how far people are able to influence the structures that affect the opportunities. The problem tree could become a framework for possible solutions. We propose an incremental process rather than a progressive one. We suggest that interventions could be implemented in different time stages, starting with the now, things that could be addressed and implemented immediately. Participation is about taking responsibility with authority and in partnership with other stakeholders in pursuit of common goals. By allowing community members to supervise and make decisions in the project, we hope that important characteristics of leadership and entrepreneurship will be developed. People voiced water as one of their biggest concerns. The water and waste situation should be addressed now. The current water contract could be renegotiated to provide water to all tanks on a daily basis. This could ease the concerns of access to water and possibly prevent violent behavior. The community and municipality could collectively clear all the waste currently on site to create a clean slate for further interventions. There is a potential in the existing community leadership. We heard testimony of people feeling safer due to their presence. Leaders could perhaps facilitate safety groups where people walk together through the open felt. The students from previous years noticed a community initiative called Power of the Father, run by SA Cares for Life. Spaza shop owners acted as informal setup leaders in the streets, but unfortunately there was a lot of competition and tension, and it was not as successful as hoped. A modified initiative could be reintroduced. Current community leaders could delegate tasks by creating responsibility groups in Woodlane Village. Each group could have a central focus, such as fire safety, systematic waste management, security, or injury emergency response teams. Leadership for each group could be on a voluntary basis. People from the surrounding areas dump their rubbish in the veld near Woodlane Village. Currently, a wall and boom entrance are being constructed by community members to prevent people from dumping there. Perhaps a guild of builders could be established that would aid in repairs and maintenance of community dwellings. These acts of agency demonstrate solidarity and build a sense of community. It also upskills and empowers people. We then looked at possible interventions for the near future. This could be the provision of a piped municipal water and sewage connection to Woodlane Village. It would remove their dependency on third-party contractors to deliver water to JoJo tanks. Reliable access to potable water could possibly improve the health and hygiene status of the community. Community leadership voiced the desire for a youth program. This could possibly entail educational and recreational activities. They communicated that sport builds trust and relationships between the children. There was also mention of an existing educational program regarding women's health for teenage girls. These existing networks of trust could be the starting point for further youth programs. Perhaps funding could aid in the construction of a physical youth center to host programs. Finally, we will look further into the future. How many rights that placemaking could act as a mediator? Perhaps if people were to receive ownership of the land, they could invest in creating themselves a home, not only investing physically in terms of constructing permanent dwellings, but also investing in terms of relationships, the community, and the environment. The previously suggested community groups could organize the disposal of waste systematically, but ultimately, the waste must go to a municipal dump site. Is it possible that the community could collect waste regularly if it were easy to collect, rather than multiple dump sites? To summarize, we analyzed dignity in terms of human rights and fundamental needs. We then presented possible interventions to begin actualizing the fundamental needs and human rights. Interventions are largely participatory in nature, and the goal is for interventions to be catalysts for change in the grander scheme of things, and we illustrated this through a solution tree. We thank you for your time.